Beverage startup content that I see online makes it look like it's such a simple four-step process. Oh, you come up with your idea, and then you go find a formulation house, and then we're going to make a bunch of product, and then go find distribution, and you're going to sell it. The reality is really this. Most of the people giving that advice are selling those exact services through those same channels. And what founders really don't hear enough about are, how does operations work? How does compliance work? How does maintaining my cash flow so I can actually produce? We're draining bank accounts here, right? We're remortgaging houses. We're working after our normal 9 to 5 job. Sometimes it's out of our garage. What most founders usually don't hear about enough is operations, packaging, the equipment decisions that need to be made, the minimums, the logistics involved with the freight. Where do we store this? Hey, I've got 20,000 cases of my new product. Like, it's weird. It's not going to fit in my 1 car garage. And I don't cool my 1 car garage. My name's Mike, and I've spent years inside this business, both as a founder, a brewery owner, a co-packer, scaling production systems, canning various beverages, bottling beverages. And what I want to do in this video today is just walk through what a grassroots beverage building looks like before you go spend massive amounts of money in all of the wrong places. So the way the industry gets presented now, it's like they simplify the living daylights out of it. It's like, hey, make your drink, make sure it fits into the market or whatever, and then you're going to go find a formulation house, and you're going to manufacture 20,000 cases, and then you go get distribution, and or you just build a website and everything will be good. But the reality is, a beverage business is just that. It's an operational business first. There's a whole lot of things that need to be considered before you're tinkering around with your ingredients and hopefully finding your sensational recipe and producing it. There's a lot at stake. It's about manufacturing. It's the logistics of that manufacturing. How do you get the ingredients, the packaging, and everything to where it's being produced? And how, once it is produced, do you get it out of there and to where it needs to be sold or where you need to store it beforehand? It's about the margins. It's about shelf life. And it's really about production planning. If all those pieces aren't enough, there's all of the legal aspects that lie underneath it. A lot of founders get so excited, they create an AI image of the brand that they want, and they have a realistic idea of what they want from their recipe out of their kitchen, but they don't lay the foundation that they really need down first to ensure that we'll be able to scale this later. And we're really taking a look for all of the things that are going to happen so that we're not left with our pants down somewhere. One of the things that I think any founder should think of first is protecting the business itself before they even start spending any money on production or development. And what I mean by that is getting your business entity structure in place, getting your legalities in place, whether it's trademark research, your socials handles, your domain name, ensuring there's continuity throughout, that your permitting and compliance is going to allow you to do the things that you want to do with your brand in the states that you want to do them. Are you going to be able to do it in the state you're in? Are you going to be able to leave the state if you want to do the same thing? Are you going to be able to make the representations that you want about your product legally in marketing? And the understanding of your category, the research that goes into it. Sometimes you have a great idea. It makes total sense. However, the reason that idea isn't in the market is because the ingredients aren't available. It's not something that can be done production wise. Maybe it doesn't fall within compliance of brands in your category. And that's why you're not seeing it. But we need to conduct the research to figure those things out before we spend a whole lot of money developing an idea that we can't do. Very often I see people spend huge amounts of money, not even realizing that their name is protected. Somebody else is using that name. In some cases, it's like, yeah, I can't find anybody with an Instagram on that. But you know what? Somebody took that name and trademarked it long ago and just put it in their back pocket. These are the things that need to take place before you just start spending money on advertising, marketing, and production. Founders start running into operational realities that nobody really ever talks about. And those are Things like the packaging choices, minimum order quantities, production minimums, storage. Where are you going to put this product? I saw on Instagram the other day, somebody had 4 pallets of a new beverage line that they had just made, and they're literally trying to load all 4 of these pallets through a 36-inch door. That means you have to take every case off the pallet and then restack it. That's a couple hours worth of backbreaking work right there. Copacking, your workflow, lead times, and your cash flow. How is this going to work? How are we going to be able to float the amount of beverage that we want, be able to sell through all of it to keep the money that we need to get the next one going, right? All things that we need to consider, put time, effort, and energy into beforehand so that we can be successful when we get there. Sometimes a package looks amazing on Instagram, but it's an operational nightmare. It's not something that we can find any co-packer will do. It's maybe not something that we can source readily or source without having a huge minimum order. So all of these things come into play. There are things that need to be researched before we make those decisions and jump ahead in branding it, telling the world on social media, hey, we have a new beverage. It's going to be in this package because AI said it looks great. But the reality is, in real life, we can't make that, or it's not even compliant packaging to use for our product. Some decisions work great for 20 case launches, but they're a complete nightmare when you go to scale that product to a full run. I've consulted with clients that have purchased an entire room full of equipment before they've even validated the demand for their product. They're spending money on storing that equipment, on the labor to get it in and out of wherever it needs to go. The utilities really losing money on the downtime of that equipment. I think a lot of founders feel that ownership is legitimate, right? If we have a facility, like, we're legitimate, we can do it. But the reality is sometimes co-packing, gypsy co-packing, manufacturing partnerships with smaller runs make a lot more sense to learn the process and get your feet wet and wear multiple hats before you go off and build an operation. It's also that idea that we want to validate our product in the marketplace. We really want to know where we're going before we do. You know, the goal at the beginning isn't to look like a national brand. You don't need to broadcast it to the world, because really the goal is surviving long enough that we can learn how to be a national brand, making the right decisions and really making the wrong decisions. Sometimes we have to do something wrong to really let it sink in that, like, hey, that's why we don't do it that way. And that's a costly mistake that we'll never make again. One thing that gets lost time and time again are a lot of the very successful brands on the market now. They started scrappy. They started grassroots, pennies in their pocket, very low seed money amounts, $15,000. I believe the woman from Poppy said she had $25,000 that they started their business with. It wasn't until they got to Shark Tank, and it really wasn't until they had done multiple small runs of production and validated their process before Shark Tank even let them on. When you start grassroots, and those large brands that did that, they figured things out as they grew. They wore all the hats. They learned the operation, packaging, logistics, sales, marketing, the production system. Those are invaluable experiences for really scaling a beverage brand. I believe understanding how to navigate those messy stages intelligently is probably the most important thing, other than looking huge, other than looking national early on. It's really gaining an idea of, okay, how does this work? To really set the stage for that real launch. If you're building a beverage brand from the ground up and you've got questions about any part of the process, drop those questions in the comment below, hit subscribe, or DM me directly. I'll keep making videos around the real world problems that happen within the beverage industry that most founders don't hear about early enough.